We shall see if Craig leaves it in the comments how I'm sounding. Hopefully, I don't sound like I'm underwater. We shall see. If he says nothing, I guess I will continue on with the show. Who knows? This is me just, trying not to be a disaster. Oh, on the live feed. Looks good. Well, how does it sound? The sound looks good so far and sounds good. All right, and we're off. What a day it's already, becoming. Hopefully, our luck is a little better when it comes to our picks because they have nothing to do with technology and everything to do with baseball. So I think we're gonna pick up where we left off. Let's start off with some of my favorite plays on the board. Let's start with the Phillies' first five. We're looking at two squads that are playing the third game of this series, and the Phillies are looking to avoid the sweep, which is crazy because this Phillies team coming in pretty solid. Now they're just 6-5, but they do have Zach Wheeler on the mound, righty going against David Peterson, a lefty, which the Phillies hit lefties pretty solid last season and still look to do so, especially against David Peterson. He's already pitched against the Phillies this year, and it was not good. A really poor season debut for Peterson. He has a 13.50 ERA. And sometimes I think mentally that gets in pitchers' minds. If you face a team and you do bad, especially if you're facing them again for the second time within 2 weeks, that's definitely in his mind, I think, here. So I will take the Phillies first five -130. Yeah, a little juice, but I think this Phillies lineup is too good not to bounce back here. And if you look at some of the splits for some of the guys hitting against Peterson, if you do daily fantasy, Rhys Hoskins, 2 home runs against Peterson and just 5 at bats. So he might be a pretty solid play there. And then looking at the other side, Zach Wheeler, a former Met himself, a one-time big-time prospect. He's been pretty solid this season, 1-1 with a 2.31 ERA and 14 strikeouts. So if he can get his command a little better as the season goes on, I think he should have a pretty solid one here. Do we have any comments? Perfect, Bo. Thanks, Chelsea. Well, first of all, it's Chelsea, but I do appreciate it. All right, let's move on to my next play, shall we? If anyone is listening, we'll see. Let's look at this Cubs and Brewers game. And last game, pretty good game between these squads, especially if you had the under like I did. So that was smooth sailing. Even with Hendricks scratched, still both of these teams are usually pretty solid plays to the unders, just because their lineups are towards the bottom of the league when it comes to most offensive categories. You've got the Cubs, who are bottom of the league in average on base percentage and strikeouts. So I am going against the Cubs here in a little bit of a fade of the Cubs, but I'm going Corbin Burns strikeout prop for plus money. Sorry, I'm trying to find this game. Here we go. Yeah, Corbin Burns has electric stuff when it comes to being a pitcher. 20 strikeouts already this season, behind just, I think, Shane Bieber when it comes to the first 2 games through the season. Big time strikeout guy. And you look at this Cubs lineup that strikes out a whole lot, and we'll take the over 8.5 strikeouts. Yeah, it's a high number, but you're getting plus money, plus 110. So if you're into taking a few risks, maybe take a risk on that. And then next up, we're looking at Kenta Maeda going against the Red Sox. It's the second game of a doubleheader. And normally I don't play doubleheaders, but I think this is a good spot to fade his strikeout prop. Just because if a team is in it in a doubleheader, sometimes we'll see these pitchers pulled, a little bit earlier, and they'll want the bullpen involved a little bit more, especially if it's a close game. Kenta Maeda has been really up and down, it seems. Still held opponents to 3 earned runs and 10 and a third innings, 11 strikeouts over his last 2. I like him to go under his strikeout prop today. Let me see what the juice is so I can give it to you. It's minus 103 for under 6.5 strikeouts. Those are the plays I'm on today. Let's see what's going on in the comments. I'm listening. Marlins big upset today. We'll see. Like I said in the other live, when my audio sounded absolutely terrible, some of you guys had really good plays yesterday. I know people were asking about the Tigers upsetting the Astros yesterday. That was a good call. If you told me Matt Boyd would be pitching as well as he is this late in the season, well, it's not late in the season, 3 games into the season, but still, this was a guy that almost led the league in home runs given up. The Reds is a funny one because I think we've seen some line movement towards the Reds in most books, but FanDuel. I think on FanDuel, the line's moving towards the Giants. So definitely some fishy line movement on that Reds game. It's hard to fade the Reds lineup. They've been so solid. Their bats early in the year, I think one of the top offenses in the league when it comes to run production, and they've piled on the runs early and often, as we saw in last night's game against the Giants. Going against Johnny Cueto tonight, I believe, and Tyler Mahle, who Mahle is a big-time prospect, but we'll see what he has against the San Francisco squad. Yeah, he's from California, returns to his home state. That should be interesting. He's from Newport Beach. Let's see. And then you've got Johnny Cueto, who is a mixed bag. Johnny Cueto, I think every time I fade him, he pitches lights out. And then every time I don't play him, or every time I do play him, he gives up like 5 runs in 3 innings. So, in the home opener, he had 8 2/3 innings of 1-run ball against the Rockies. So we'll see. And he's going against his old team. If you remember, Johnny Cueto came up with the Reds, I believe. Yeah, he was an all-star for the Reds, I think. So I think Miley would be the Reds just because I think you can trust that offense a little bit more here. And as I've said before, the Giants are usually a little bit better against lefties. Molly is a righty, so I would lean the Reds there, but definitely not one of my plays. Under in Cubs and White Sox today. So they're not playing each other, so you mean both of those games. How much are you putting down? Well, I'm not playing the Reds, so that's just a lean. Pirates win after Musgrove no-hitter last time. I think that's an interesting angle to play. I would look at Musgrove's strikeout prop and see how high it is and maybe fade him that way because the Pirates have been winning some games. I'll give them that, but they're still not, a great team. So eventually I think it reverts back to the mean. And Musgrove, he came from the Pirates. So, he's going to be nice and motivated to pitch well against his old squad. Indians and White Sox, don't you think under again tonight? Let's see who's pitching. Because the only thing, it's hard when teams go a ton of innings the night before, especially if they used a lot of their bullpen arms. I know both starters went pretty deep. Plesac and Carlos Rodon. Rodon was really good to start the year. He's 1-0 with a 0 ERA and 9 strikeouts. Rodon's one of those guys that towards the end of last season was a little bit hit or miss. But, I mean, he's top-line talent. He's from NC State, my alma mater. We know this Indians lineup on average, doesn't – they struggle to score runs. That's the problem with the Indians. Yeah, I think an under would be a solid play there. Let's see who else we've got in this comment. Oh, yeah, I didn't go to the Marlins. Let's look at the Marlins real quick, shall we? Man, what's going on with Max Fried? I can't believe, his start to the season because last year he was so good. The ace for the Braves behind probably Soroka. Charlie Morton pitching for Atlanta, and then Nick Neidert. Let's see. I don't know. It's hard to fade the Braves because their lineup can get hot at any time. But you guys, here's the thing. If you have a lock, tell me why. Don't just say, I like this team. Tell me why, and we'll have a discussion about it, Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. As I'm just, talking to myself over here. Let's see. What other games shall we dive into? Do we think the Brewers win? I think, it's a solid play, but I think the juice is pretty high on it. In baseball, it's hard to play teams that are heavily juiced, you know, just because baseball's so weird. And especially this start to the season, we've seen so many underdogs win at big plus money. It's hard to go against. Yeah, minus 177 for the Brewers. Rockies, Dodgers, over under 7.5. Let's see who is starting on that one. John Gray and Dustin May. You know what? I was looking at a first five under in this one because Dustin May is pretty good, but he doesn't go deep in games. He's actually been striking out quite a few guys too compared to last season. Already 8 strikeouts on the year, which he was not a big strikeout guy last season. John Gray's coming off a good one, holding the Diamondbacks without a hit through 6 innings last time. Granted, the Dodgers lineup is a little bit stiffer than the Diamondbacks. 7.5 is a low number, especially. It's hard to play unders for the Dodgers, just because their lineup can, score that by themselves. But if you feel strongly about it, it might be a good contrarian play because I might be taking a first 5 in that game, first 5 under. Yeah, Dodgers on the run line. Dodgers on the run line to end last year's regular season were a really hot play. Just because when you have a team that is number 1, really good, number 2, really good offensively, and has the offense to score a ton of runs, because it's almost the opposite of the Indians. The Indians had the starting pitching last season, but they couldn't score runs, so it's hard to play them on the run line. And it's always, fun to play one of those late night West Coast games to have some action. Late in the day, or late in the night, I should say. I love the Astros on the run line over the Tigers. No way Tigers sweep. You would think. I thought that yesterday. But somehow Matthew Boyd got it done. I think Lance McCullers might be due for a strikeout prop here, because another thing is if you see strikeout pitchers that have not done that well in their first few games of the season, but they're good, it drives their number a little bit farther down, and you might get a better value. And this is a Tigers lineup that in the past has struck out quite a bit. Let's see what Lance McCullers' strikeout prop is. Over 7.5. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's pretty high. Because the thing about strikeout props is not only do they have to strike out a lot of guys, they have to stay in the game. So if he gets hit a lot, he's not probably making it past 5. Matt Harvey is a train wreck. Yeah, this is a fact. I don't see how Matt Harvey keeps getting starting pitching jobs. There's always somebody willing to take a chance on him for some reason. I don't know, because he keeps getting player props, huge value that most people don't jump on. Well, the problem with player props is I feel like they don't post them till right up until game time, so I always forget to do them. But yeah, I love strikeout props, and something you can do on FanDuel is hit parlays. Something I do for the Dodgers a lot. You can do Corey Seager to get a hit, and you usually have to combine it with somebody else to get a hit, because Corey Seager to get one hit is usually minus 250. But that's another way to kind of play baseball. Brewers Nats in a parlay. You know how I feel about parlays, to put it lightly. Not a big parlay fan of baseball, just because it's just there's so many unknowns and so many things can happen day to day that I prefer to keep my plays one at a time. Even though the Nats got absolutely shellacked. Love parlay same game baseball. Yeah, those are fun. I don't know if I'd recommend doing them a whole lot just because it's hard to hit, but same game parlays are so much fun. Just because you have multiple things to root for, and you can kind of play several things that are, heavily juiced. They probably don't have them for the Dodgers game yet. No, because they don't play till 9. But if you look at some of these games that have high totals, for instance, this Blue Jays Yankees game, 10.5. So if you're expecting a lot of runs, you're probably expecting a lot of hits. So if you want to cook up a hit parlay, oof, all these Yankees hitters are like minus 300 though. Yeah, that's a fun way to play baseball. Wheeler and Phillies dominate today. Well, I'm hoping so because I already took the Phillies first 5. Wish I find a woman who know their sports like you. It's not all that it's cracked up to be. I think you should find somebody who likes you for you, first and foremost. Sports is just a nice little added bonus. Because I think if you get into sports, if you watch a few games, you kind of get into it, it'll be better. It's kind of like watching a TV show. Um, like I said at the top of the show, I have a free $20 bet. It expires tonight. What should I play it on? If we could try to keep it to, baseball, that would be lovely. It's too early for, that kind of talk. I have not had any alcohol. Marlins hug price. What does that mean? Huge price. And you'll have to elaborate. What do you mean? Under in the Cubs. I like that. Under in the Cubs games, is usually a pretty solid play, as we've seen about this Cubs lineup. Let's take a look at some of these stats. Pitching, hitting. Yep, there are the Cubs and the Brewers, dead last and second to last in average. Both teams are hitting under 200 as a team. The Cubs are hitting 167 and a cool on base percentage of 261, which there are teams that are with better batting averages than that. The Dodgers, I think, are hitting like almost 300. Yep, 285. Let's look at some surprises when it comes to these numbers. The Red Sox are second when it comes to hitting and batting average. They're hitting 277 as a team and an OPS of over 800, which is pretty solid. So I know the Red Sox were a train wreck to start the season, but offensively they're heating up. So maybe a team to watch for. All right, let's look at this Marlins game since I think we've already looked at it. I just didn't really like it. Nothing jumps out to me, and I don't really like betting on games that, if I don't see an actual edge, I don't like betting on things just to have action. Oh, man. Yeah, the Cubs lineup needs to figure it out. I tweet them every day to let me be their hitting coach. You like San Francisco Giants game under today? Well, I got burned pretty bad taking an under in the Giants game last night, so I am staying away from that one because clearly I do not have a good handle on that squad. So, yeah, staying away from the Giants and the Reds today, I believe. We'll see what Tyler Mahle has, or Mahle. I'm not entirely sure. Another issue is I can't watch the Reds. There's a blackout here. It's absolutely terrible. I can't watch the Reds or the Braves here in Nashville because MLB has the worst guidelines when it comes to watching these games. What games are you liking today? Well, I've already said them, but I'll do a quick recap for the people who are just joining us. Any no-run first innings you like? Well, they're not in the plays that I was going to give out, so it would just be me throwing darts. So I'm not going to do that. I don't want to give out plays that I haven't done any research on. The ones that I do like, Phillies first 5 over the Mets, just because Peterson got shellacked the last time he played the Phillies, and it was only about a week and a half ago. And I think that sticks out in your mind as a starting pitcher when a team has your number, and especially since the Phillies tend to hit lefties pretty well, which Peterson's a lefty. So I'll be taking the Phillies first 5 against the Mets minus 130. And then if you're up for some plus money fun, or willing to take a bit of a risk, excuse me, I've got Corbin Burns going over 8.5 strikeouts for plus 110. Yeah, it's a high number, but this Cubs lineup, as I've touched on, is really, really bad. Let's see. Angels, Royals. You know what? I'd love to pick the Royals there. I'd love to. Just because they're plus money and their starting pitching is usually pretty solid. I know Brad Keller, I think he's had a bad one. Let me take a look. Yeah, 19.29 ERA. Last season, he was pretty solid. I wonder what they are on the run line. Let's look. Because the Royals last season were very solid on the run line, plus 1.5, because they lost a lot of close games. Oh, it's minus 152 for the run line. Yeah, I don't really love that. I mean, they're definitely a live dog there, I think. San Diego first in money line. First inning? Oh, first inning money line. Pirates have given up 14 first inning runs this season. That's a good stat. But what's the juice on that is what I'd like to know. So it can't be a great price. Let's look. Innings. Well, if you want inning winner, the Padres are plus 225, but that's not including a tie. Money line. I'm not seeing money line after 1. I do see money line first 3 innings, but the Padres are minus 186. Yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. I know this is kind of stream of consciousness and it's not really what I'm used to. So bear with me. Yankees, Jays over 10.5. I don't have any strong feelings about it, if I'm being perfectly honest. This is going a bit long, so maybe we'll wrap it up. Just to recap some of the plays I gave out, we're going Phillies first 5, money line minus 130, Corbin Burns strikeout prop for all of you risk takers out there because it's plus money and it's a high number at 8.5. But I like him to go over that against this really bad Cubs lineup. Thanks everybody for joining in. Like I said, hopefully I'll be better at this the next time. Yeah, I'm just kind of feeling it out. It's a little new for me because normally I just have my plays ready to go, and I don't really do this, stream of consciousness by myself. So those are the 2 I really like, and plus maybe a Kenta Maeda underplay on his strikeout prop, just because in double headers, I think the strategy is a bit different. He's a strikeout pitcher, but if you're talking about 7 innings, he might be pulled a little bit early if that game is close and they want to get in a closer. So that's why I would play an under on his strikeout prop. And I think that's going to do it. Make sure and tune in every Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll be here, on this stream of conscious monologue. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button.